Okay.
My apologies. We are now recording.
Okay, good, perfect. Yeah. So I'm really excited to be here, and especially, like I said, in our first tasting room that we are opening at District Wine Village in Oliver. I would like to present you and start by presenting our winery. So our winery is called Winemaker's Cut. The reason why we picked this name is very simple, because I'm making wine for over I think 21 harvests already, and I was doing some wine back home in Slovakia where I'm coming from. But when I came here to Okanagan in 2012, I was usually working for other people, for other wineries, for other wine growers. And then I ended up actually making some of wine for myself as well. And I started a winery, and I was like, what should I name the winery? Well, this is basically the first time I'm making a decision for myself, for my wine. This is the style that I would like to make from Okanagan grapes. So it's just like a director's cut when he's making his own edit of a film. I decided that this is going to be my winemaker's cut, my own edit, my own version of Okanagan wine. We were established in 2015. So in 2015, we did our very first wine, which was Syrah 2015, absolutely stunning vintage. I think I have only a couple bottles left in my cellar. If you want to come see us at the village here, I might do a special occasion that we can open one bottle. So we are located south of Oliver, between Oliver and Ossus, to be more precise. And it's on the western side of the highway, and the vineyard is called Dead Man Lake Vineyard. The reason for this name is because it's right across the street from Dead Man Lake. And it is about 8.5 acre vineyard now with some new plantings, so almost 10 acre vineyard with Syrah, Cabernet Franc, Sauvignon Blanc, then also Southern block of Syrah. And if you see a little bit below towards the highway, there are some new plantings of Gruner Veltliner as well. This area over here is absolutely unique for the Okanagan, but I will get to that later. So this is our estate vineyard, and then we have a couple other vineyards that we contracted long-term that are supplying grapes only for us. So we never source grapes. We always have stable suppliers that are my friends, growers that are following our philosophy of growing grapes, which has to be, first of all, really sustainable, if not organic. And some of them are even following already some of our recommendations that are a little more towards biodynamic farming as well. Next slide, please. Dead Man Lake Vineyard. So why is it so unique? So I came here to Okanagan in 2012. Like I said, I never really knew Okanagan that well. So I was, trying to find what's the significance of what's the main character of Okanagan vineyards. And I realized that usually Okanagan is very sandy soil, a lot of gravel. So you need to have a lot of irrigation because, the water just goes through the sand and there is basically no moisture in the soil, which is not typical for Middle Europe where I'm coming from. But I found some vineyards that contain clay. And one of them is Dead Man Lake Vineyard. This vineyard doesn't contain sand, if then only very little bit. The soil is basically based on dark brown Chernozem type of soil, which is clay, and a lot of shale. So it's completely the opposite of all the other vineyards in the area. And I completely fell in love with this vineyard, and that's why I'm really happy that we can make wine out of this vineyard. The other important thing about Dead Man Lake Vineyard is that the location is also between two lakes. So you see on the picture there is Dead Man Lake, and on the other side of the hill is Spotted Lake. I don't know if you know Spotted Lake. It's a pretty famous lake in Okanagan. And both of these lakes in dry summer months, when it's too dry, the water dries out. You can see white spots on the surface of these lakes. And this is just a confirmation of how rich is the soil in minerals in this area. The outwash terrace is the hill that is above our vineyard, created both of these lakes, and they created also our vineyard. So we did, like almost every year, we are doing laboratory analysis of our soil, and they show minerals in heavy concentration, especially sulfur, magnesium, calcium, zinc, and iron. And I think that's the significant part that I can taste the difference in our wines, especially. Next slide, please. vineyard practices. So because of the uniqueness of our soil, we have also decided that we want to adjust the winemaking and the wine growing especially, so that we can highlight the uniqueness of this area. So our vineyard practices are just like I was doing back home in Europe. Here it's called sustainable. Back home in Europe it was called bio, which means we are not using any pesticides, any herbicides, any synthetic fertilizers in the vineyard. You see on the picture, the vineyard is completely wild. You cannot even walk in the vineyard because it's usually this time of the year, it's just covered with cover crops, which are really tall, and they are making sure they keep the nutrients in the soil. We have actually, the vineyard was planted in 2005. It was never even fertilized because the soil is so rich and so unique. So that's why our vineyard practices are, first of all, sustainable, because we want to be sustainable also to our business. So we are not certified organic, we are not certified biodynamic, because we cannot use all the regulations. Basically, we cannot follow them. Every vineyard is very unique. Especially from biodynamics, we brought something that my grandfathers used to use in vineyards, which is working according to lunar calendar, which is basically the same as, us people. There are days when you wake up in the morning and you feel like, well, I don't want to do anything today because, there's a really bad day, really bad energy. That's the same with plants, and it has to do with moon, So different moon phases, when it's, for example, full moon, we don't even go to the vineyard because we want to leave the plant on its own so they can deal with whatever is happening in the universe. And then, of course, we are also trying to use some like a natural herbal tea that we are basically mixing them and spraying them so that we don't have to use even organic sprays, just like sulfur, because sulfur in high volume can be also very toxic as well. Next slide, please. Classical music. Well, just like I mentioned, Winemaker's Cut is our own version of making wine, and our own version of making wine is also not only being true to the land, not only be true to be sustainable to Mother Earth, but it's also bringing our own philosophy, our own life into winemaking. So it's not only a product that you have to produce, watch the chemical analysis. It's really something that you are creating with your heart. And if you wanted to create some kind of a human terroir, me and my wife, we are big lovers of classical music. I used to be a trained classical musician back home in Europe. And always when I was making wine, always when I was working in a vineyard, I was playing classical music, at least my earphones. And then one day we realized, well, if we are feeling happy when we are working in the vineyard, which is pretty like monotone type of work, why don't we like install speakers and we play music to the whole vineyard? And then we realized that the grapes were performing better. There was not such a huge disease attack. They were more receptive. Everybody that helped us working in the vineyard, they were happy. So there was really good energy there. The grapes that were closest to the speakers, they were growing really fast, and the grapes were ripening faster. Then when we were processing the grapes, we were also playing classical music in our cellar. And then I realized when the wine was finished, like, well, the wine has greater depth, has different character. So I know it might sound a little, kind of funny, but I really believe in it, and that's why we decided, okay, we want to spread news around the world, even in Canada, that exposing not only vineyard winemaking to classical music, but your life to positive energy, it simply makes a huge difference. Next slide, please. Winemaking. So we were talking about about the processes that we are doing in our vineyard, our feature and our specialty, that's classical music. We also do play classical music when making wine. And because we are working with so unique vineyard, according to me, I also wanted to adjust the winemaking so that we are not using anything kind of artificial in winemaking, but we really would like to let the vineyard, let the grapes speak for themselves. So I was brought up to make wine very traditional way. We never ever bought yeast in our vineyard in Slovakia. We were never using any fining agents, any fermentation aids, and that's the same we are doing over here in Canada. Because of course it's also a kind of a business, so and we have to run a really tight shift here. From time to time, we are using special select organic yeast that are helping us to ferment certain wines. So I call myself our winemaking natural winemaking, but our wine will always be clean, and we are always focusing on very clean flavors in wine. It's a little complicated process. We have to do a lot of different fermentation, small fermentation of each wine. So you'll probably taste our Sauvignon Blanc. It was fermenting in 5 different fermentation vessels, just because we really have to focus on the clean flavors, and then after we blend all these fermentation lots together. Next slide, please. Yeah, we were talking about Sauvignon Blanc. There we go. So Sauvignon Blanc is our signature grape. I really like Sauvignon Blanc as a varietal because it's very fresh, very aromatic. Can be made in so many different styles. And we are actually making Sauvignon Blanc as a table wine, single varietal, single vineyard from our estate vineyard. This is 2020 Sauvignon Blanc. It's 100% Sauvignon Blanc. And a lot of time people are asking us, what's your Sauvignon Blanc like? Is it like Australia? Is it like French? And I have just a very simple description. This is somewhere between. We found that Canadian Sauvignon Blanc from Deadman Lake Vineyard is not very light, not too aromatic because of the winemaking that we are making. It's usually richer style of Sauvignon Blanc. Even though we are focusing on like lower alcohol levels in our wine, it's still wine that really it fills your mouth with tons and tons of flavors, especially tropical flavors. There is a little bit of these grassy notes that are from like typical for Australian Sauvignon Blancs. But there is a lot of minerality, a lot of this saltiness that is typical for French Sauvignon Blancs. Rosé 2020. This is our new rosé. So this is our already 3rd vintage of rosé we are producing. We make our rosé from our estate Cabernet Franc and also Syrah. Every year, the percentage of this blend is a little different. The reason is because we are picking only the highest elevation rows in our vineyard. We are a little bit on the hillside. And the highest elevation rows, they usually get not too much water because we are trying to do also a little bit of dry farming. You know, with clay in the vineyard, we can do it because clay can keep moisture really well. So we get very small grapes, small berries. We just crush them. There is absolutely no skin contact. So that's why we get very pale color. We are not focusing on the body, on really rich and big rosés. We are focusing on the Provence style, which is very, very light, very, very refreshing, low alcohol. But you have the first glass, you have the second glass, and 1 hour after, you can still feel the flavors in your mouth. And it's just, to me, it's always like absolutely stunning. And especially 2020 was a really good year in Okanagan. Sometimes, 2019 rosé, for example, was more sharper because it was a cooler vintage, so the acidity was higher. The 2020 is more, to me, sophisticated. It's more elegant. It has more depth. It's yeah, goosebumps. Next slide, please. Fidelia. This year, Winemaker's Cut started producing also sparkling wines. And who is making sparkling wine out of Sauvignon Blanc in Okanagan? No one, only Winemaker's Cut. So this is our Fidelia sparkling wine. It's made in a Charmat method, which means we picked our grapes for Sauvignon Blanc a little earlier, so that we can have really low alcohols. We made a very, very base wine. And then we did a secondary fermentation in pressurized tank that was closed. And because the byproduct of fermentation is CO2, the CO2 got bound into wine, and that's how we got these beautiful bubbles. So it's almost like making wine the traditional champagne method, where you keep it in a bottle and you ferment it in a bottle. We just are doing it in a big, 5,000 liter Charmat tank. And then the wine was also aging on the heavy fermentation lees for quite some time. So we get a little bit of this leesy, this toasty character. And I'm really, really happy about the outcome of our Sauvignon Blanc sparkling. We also add a little bit of Muscat canali. The reason is because, sometimes early picked Sauvignon Blanc has, very, very, like almost like a little thin tones. So we added only 5% Muscat canali. That was that started fermenting on skin. So we added some texture to the wine. We don't have to disclose that we are using, but we want to be completely transparent. So you don't taste the Muscat in this wine that much. but it really made a difference to me as a winemaker. Next slide, please. Okay, now let's have a little break from wine and let's talk about virtual reality, right?
It's virtual, yes. Let's talk about this reality.
Last year, we were exposed to a lot of virtual realities in our life, I guess, because of COVID, right? And that got us thinking. And the main person that got an absolutely brilliant idea was Barb. And he asked me about if I would be interested in doing a virtual tasting room. Like, well, absolutely yes. He immediately said yes because I knew.
To be clear, you did not have a tasting room at the time.
That's true. That's true. So it was like, that's why I was completely interested into it. So we started talking about it. Barb introduced me to amazing people that were able to build it. And this is our virtual tasting room. It's about 2 months after we launched it. There has been a huge interest in seeing it. A lot of people looked into it, went in there. You can even go there. You can visit our webpage, winemakerscat.ca, and under their menu, tasting room, you can scroll down and you can see that you can click on it. You can walk in. You can see the room is completely virtual. It doesn't exist. But once you are there, you can look through our portfolio, which is like we have 4 tiers of wine, our main estate wines, Winemaker's Cut wines, Boho wines, which are simple house blends, Bohemian wines, premium wines, and also our new sparkling wines. You click on the wine, you can see all the tasting sheet of each wine. If you like the tasting sheet, of course you can maybe taste it, but you can click on add to my basket and you can do shopping. I think it's absolutely brilliant. We had some amazing feedback, and we are hoping that after summer, when everybody is back home and to our hopefully normal life after COVID, and it's raining outside, Winemaker's Cut can organize virtual tastings just like this one in our own virtual tasting room.
Something completely new, completely different, completely your own, because this design doesn't exist. It was just Michael's creation. So I think it's a great teaching tool too, because each of the arrows actually has something that pops up, and you can wander through at your leisure and learn about the wines, the blends, the making, the content, alcohol levels, that sort of thing, and the pricing, of course. So I think it serves a great kind of purpose, especially for people who love wine and want to dive deep. And so, yeah, to be continued, yes?
And hopefully one day our friends in Silicon Valley in San Francisco will develop something that there will be a tube out of your computer, laptop, and you can even sip a little bit, and then you can decide, okay, I like this one, I can order.
Yeah, that would be awesome. All right. Thank you for sharing that. More to come on this for sure.
Absolutely. And now, next 3 wines from our portfolio. So we are moving to our Bohemian wines. Bohemian wines, we decided to make Bohemian wines because we have access to some absolutely outstanding fruit in the Okanagan. And we wanted to create like really super premium blends. So we call them Bohemian. Again, the reason for Bohemian is because Bohemian means unconventional. When I looked at our winemaking, I think it's kind of unconventional, kind of different winemaking. So I would like to introduce you our Bohemian Blanc 2019. This is, again, we are focusing on Sauvignon Blanc. So this is a blend of 70% Sauvignon Blanc, 30% Semillon that fermented and spent 6 months in Slovakian oak. And I think it just created a different kind of Bordeaux white blend because it's not super heavy, super oaky, white blend. It's very, very elegant. And we are originally Slovakia, if I haven't mentioned that, probably a couple of times. And I really I was born and I raised up working in Slovakian oak, fermenting wine, making wine in Slovakian oak. And when I arrived here in Canada, I realized a lot of wineries are using only French or American oak. And I was like, well, it's kind of a shame because Canada is such a multicultural country. And there are so many different kinds of oak around the world. Bulgarian, Slovakian, Hungarian, French, Russian, all kinds of oaks. And because I was familiar with Slovakian oak, so I decided, well, I'm going to bring Slovakian oak to Okanagan and I'll try to make wine in Slovakian oak. The result was outstanding. I really like it. It creates really elegant wine. You have French oak that usually gives a lot of like savoriness to wine. You have American oak that gives a lot of like toastiness, a lot of like the burnt wood into wine. You have Hungarian oak that is somewhere between French and American. And then you have Slovakian oak. Slovakian oak to me is like in spring, when you walk into a forest after fresh spring rain, you can smell like the fresh wood, you know, and that's what I smell also in our wine when it's fermented and aged in Slovakian oak. The wine has a great aging potential. It's really, it's not too much of everything. It's just about the right amount of elegance in all aspects.
I love this wine. I just have to say, I was completely surprised and delighted, and I can't say enough about it. So if you haven't got your 6-pack that contains this, you know, I think it's at Swirl and a few other shops in the Lower Mainland. So make sure you try it. It's awesome.
This is also very limited. So our Bohemian Rouge are very, very limited in production. But let's move out to our Syrah, which is our signature varietal. The first wine we ever started in 2015 making was Syrah, and right away it made its way to like high premium restaurants in Lower Mainland in Vancouver, and ever since it's selling really, really fast. Every single year, the Syrah is just the best representation of the vineyard and the vintage. So this is 2019 vintage, which was a little cooler vintage. It's just 13.5% alcohol, only, if I'm correct, only 6 months in Slovakian, American, and French oak, so 3 types of oak. If you are expecting Syrah to be big and bold and a lot of oak, a lot of alcohol, this is not the type of Syrah. This is more elegance. This is more the French style of Syrah that ages absolutely amazing in a bottle. It's good to enjoy even right now. We don't even have that many cases left in the winery. So we produced 500, released it in the fall, and right now we are down to, I think, 150 cases. So it's a very limited. Pretty soon we will be selling it only in the tasting room. And if I can describe our Syrah in 3 words, it's always rich, generous, spicy, or forwards, and peppery. Peppery means not many vineyards have the pepperiness in their wine, and not every varietal has that. Syrah is one of them. And Dead Man Lake Vineyard can produce this pepperiness in the Syrah. And the last wine is our Bohemian Rouge. This is our second of our Bohemian wines. It's a traditional Bordeaux blend. Every year the blend is a little different because we select, just like Bohemian, unconventional, we select the blend in the vineyards. We're not blending barrels. It's 40% Merlot, 30% Cabernet Franc, 20% Cabernet Sauvignon, 20% Cabernet Franc, and 10% Petit Verdot. Again, 2019 was a little cooler vintage, so if we would keep the wine in the barrel for, I don't know, 2 years, we would just get a lot of oak, not too much fruit. And I just love the fruit of such a fresh and cool vintage of 2019. So we kept it in a barrel only for 6 months. Then we just simply bottled the wine and released it after 6 months in a bottle, and the wine is just outstanding. It's unique, but it's absolutely outstanding. Both of these Bohemian wines, so the Bohemian Blanc and the Bohemian Rouge, are sold almost exclusively to 2 premium restaurants. One is in Victoria called Courtney Room, and the other one is the most iconic hotel in the world, Chateau Frontenac in Quebec, by the glass, which not a lot of wineries are selling their wine there. That's why I'm really, really excited and really, really happy about this fact. And it's wine that can be enjoyed right now with the proper food pairing. It's got an amazing texture, and it's got also, I have to mention this, it's got something that not many Bordeaux blend has from Okanagan, and that's the sage character. Okanagan is covered with sage, and this wine, when I pour it in my glass and I smell to it, it's like, oh, this is just a beautiful Okanagan sage.
Congratulations on Chateau Frontenac. I know it well. That's quite amazing. And, you know, to be representing the Okanagan, but also your fantastic skill set. So that's just a coup d'etat. Well done.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So that was basically our flight. So 6 wines. So our winery, when we started our winery, I thought like, I want to produce only 3 wines. 1 white, 1 rosé, 1 red. Now we ended up having 10 wines. And the reason for that is we have access to amazing fruit from my friends' growers. And when we started making it, and I cannot blend it. Those wines are so unique on its own, representing each vineyard. If we can blend something, we are doing a blend for our sparkling, but all the rest is usually single vineyard wines. That's why we are just keep adding, because every single new wine that we are making is just on its own is absolutely fantastic. So that also speaks for, we're not trying to focus on product marketing and money. We are also mostly focusing on what's the most important to me in winemaking. It's really representing each site, each vineyard, each vineyard block. That's what it's like.
And a sense of place. Where are we? Where are we in the world? Where are we in British Columbia? And then where are we in the Okanagan? And I think that's what we're all going to start to develop, is this recognition of, mineral salts in the Sauvignon Blanc, or that sage in your Bordeaux Bohemian Rouge. So you're going to keep teaching us, and you're going to show us the way. So thank you.
Glad, anytime. And of course, right now we are really happy that we can share these wines not only to premium restaurants and private liquor stores in BC, around Canada, but also in United States. But we can also do it in our tasting room, like I mentioned, that is located in New York.
So is in this picture here that we have, are you here somewhere? Did I get the right picture, or is this you looking out? I don't know.
We a picture of our building. The reason is because next to us is another building that's accommodated by Inca Lip Cellars.
Okay.
It's a winery that I saw back home in Slovakia in a documentary. And their neighbors were like, what's happened? But anyway, the building is still under construction, so they couldn't make a beautiful picture of our building. But this is actually my view from our patio.
Okay. So when we stand and turn around, look the other way, we'll know we're in the right place.
And like people are saying, like, if you're looking at Okanagan, like you have $1 million view. This is the $1 million view to me.
That's awesome. This looks like it's going to be fountains, seating area.
Water ponds. Like I have a 2-year-old son, so I think he'll be there every day. The landlord will be happy.
All right. Beautiful. Now, this is the Good Wine Gal offer, which some or all of you have participated in. So thank you very much. And it is still going to be posted until midnight Friday. So if you haven't ordered it, you are still able to. And thank you for supporting us. And I have this at the end because here is the list.
Yeah, that's the what's it called?
That's your Spotify playlist that you sent me, which we had a chat about a particular song relating to Sauvignon Blanc and a particular song relating to Syrah, and I thought that was very interesting. I don't know if you recall all of the details, but
right now in our tasting room we have an old gramophone, and I have a collection of classical music LP records. So I don't even know if I'm going to pour wine here. I'm just going to sit and listen.
All right, I'm going to stop the share, and then we can ask folks in the room what they might be sipping. So, but first of all, Michael, that was a rapid fire, getting through a lot of slides, and thank you. It was really great. Cheers.
I have to mention one other thing. Every single sparkling wine has a different name. It doesn't have our logo on the label. Our sparkling wine Fidelia is actually name of the main character from Puccini opera Edgar. So we picked 3 names. We released 3 sparkling wines, and each of the main character is a woman character, and it's just a beautiful character. So Fidelia is faithful, it's loyal, it's filled with compassion and empathy, just like the wine.
Sounds like Barb.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. We have one question from Sarah. If you did get any input on the building or the particular suite that you're in. I can't imagine that you would have gotten input on the actual building, but perhaps the design, the interior design, and what you did with the suite that you're in.
So we were able to do just a little minor decisions, but when I saw the architectural design, I felt like, well, this doesn't need anything. So they allow us to design the tasting room like we want. In the back, we will have just, a little small production facility that we want to use only for producing sparkling wines here. But every single building has a different shape. So I think there are only 2 that are similar, of the same shape. So I think, and so far when I walked around here and I was looking at different buildings, every single one has different character, different feeling, different energy.
Cool. So you've kind of got your own brand once you walk in the doors.
Yeah, exactly.
And are you able to offer, I'm just going to ask a few questions myself since I'm speaking. Are you able to offer like a little bit of sort of charcuterie or cheese or anything to go with the wines there? Or how are you managing that food and wine pairing aspect of it?
Absolutely. So because there is a restaurant here, the restaurant is also working with wineries over here very closely. So if you sit on our patio, you can order food from the restaurant. We are also planning to do like a special, like a sensory tasting or, food pairing tasting. So we'll have like 1 bite to wines, to a wine flight. But I don't know how we will be able to manage it with all the people that are planning to come here. Certainly by appointment, we are planning to do something special as well. But most importantly, there is food here. The food can be enjoyed on our patio. The food can be enjoyed in the center of the village. So what else do you need? Like wine, food, company, people around
A reservation. You need a reservation. So do you have is it set up for, I don't know, thinking about COVID? Do you have like plexi, or is it just kind of like come on in 2 at a time or 4 at a time, or how does that work? Do you know?
So the patio will have 4 tables. It can have 6 tables, but because of COVID, it has 4 tables. We recommend reservations, of course, but we are welcome.
So you just have the tables outside. They don't come inside. Is that correct?
Inside is only 1 tasting bar, so we'll have 1 group inside and 4 groups outside.
Okay. And how many, like 4 to a tasting group, or have you got an idea about numbers?
We decided maximum 6, but we also going to follow the regulation of health authorities, of course.
Which is 4.5. I don't know. Teasing. I don't know. Awesome. Sounds amazing. Any questions around the tasting room setup? Who's got the phone number? Are you on Open Table? How do you make a reservation?
So on our webpage, click on a tasting room, and there is a reservation formula. You can pick the date, 30-minute tasting. Of course, you can sit a lot longer as well. And we'll be here. I'll be here probably all summer as well, because I want to see our customers. I want to see everyone enjoying our wine.
So it's a pricing structure. So if you buy a bottle, then there's a discount or something like that, or how does that?
You can enjoy it on our patio for the winery price, of course. If you take it into the center plaza, which is licensed by a restaurant, you need to pay, I think, $10 like
corkage or something.
Oh, interesting. We do have another question about the Gruner Veltliner. This is from Fred and Cherie. I'm not quite sure what they want to know in particular, but just
please discuss Gruner Veltliner. So let's have a bit of a story about that, because it's rather unique in British Columbia. Okay. And Michael, the master of invisible hands and vibes, making this kind of super special. Let's hear the thoughts about the delicacies or intricacies of its character and how you make it so in British Columbia, because it's not Austria, right?
So I'll start by saying that Gruner Veltliner is a typical varietal for Middle Europe, where I'm coming from Slovakia. Of course, right now the most famous Gruners around the world are from Austria, but there are many other countries that are producing stunning Gruner Veltliner, just like Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, even Poland as well. And this is a varietal that when I was young, I was below legal age, and I wanted to have some, drink after working in the vineyard. And I asked my grandma, I would like something refreshing, some limo or something. She's like, no, you are not going to drink that sweet stuff. You are going to have Gruner Veltliner mixed with water or with soda. And that's what I was drinking. So I literally grew up on drinking this wine and making this wine all the time. So I almost like to say that it's in my blood, because every time I taste Gruner Veltliner, it's just heaven. Gruner Veltliner is a varietal. To me, it's the new Chardonnay in the world of wine. It's wine that can be made in many different styles, aged in oak, aged in concrete, or fresh style, which we are focusing on. And it has to deliver flavors that are not very typical for wine. And the flavors are marzipan, almonds, honey, and green apple. Those, when they are combined, so when the picking in the vineyard is at the right time, it just delivers wine that, yeah, it's absolutely stunning. It's one of the few wines that can be enjoyed with fried dishes. You know, in Austria, it's enjoyed with Wiener Schnitzel mostly. Over here, I can easily say I like to drink my Gruner Veltliner with fried calamari, even with like truffle fries or something like that. Like it's absolutely such
it's got that great acidity that really does work with the fatty foods, but there's a certain richness to it too. So you kind of have that combination where you can have something fatty and then you're feeling that beauty of the food, but then you're not feeling the whole fattiness of it.
And without yeah, absolutely, and without the wine being too rich, you know, just like Chardonnay can be something like too much.
Yes, yeah.
Gruner is never too much. It's always just the right amount.
It's a bit of a contrast. Also, another question about the Muscat, just where you're selling it. Is it in the BC, I always say BC LDB, but BC liquor stores, or is that a very limited edition?
So it's a limited edition. It's the only wine that we are focusing on residual sugar in the wine because it's Muscat. You know, who doesn't like Muscat? It's a refreshing wine. And I'm happy that we have Muscat in our portfolio because back home in Europe, we are producing Muscat canali a lot, which is a Muscat. It's a varietal of Muscat. There are so many varietals of Muscat in the world.
And so, sorry, let me interrupt you for 1 second there. I hadn't heard of this Muscat canali before. I just heard Muscat. So this is just a particular Muscat, or could you just speak to that for 1 second there?
Yeah, it's a particular Muscat that is typical for northern Italy. So this Muscat is a little leaner, with a higher acidity. And the northern Italians are making it also with a little spritz, just a tiny little spritz before bottling, which makes the wine, even if there is a residual sugar, the spritz makes the wine pretty much dry and very, very, very refreshing. So it's really, it's like some Muscats can be really heavy, almost like oily in the glass. This is completely the opposite. So 2019 was our first year that we were producing Muscat. It sold out really, really fast. It's available also in Save-On-Foods, for example, and in a lot of private stores in Lower Mainland, and also at our winery. But I think this year we also increased production of our Muscat because of the village, because I think sunshine in the Okanagan and having a glass of Muscat on the patio, it's just the only thing what you can ask for.
And if you're in Vancouver and you're going out and eating in restaurants, because we do have a few Vancouver people here, where would we find your wine?
Well, honestly, I don't even remember because the list is getting so big of all the restaurants.
Good for you.
But most important, I think it's Nuba restaurants.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
And if you have a restaurant that doesn't have our Muscat on the wine list, you have to ask them, like, what's wrong with you? You need to have our Muscat. You need to have Muscat on the wine list. For example, recently we were having tacos with my wife, really delicious tacos from Asus. We had some Muscat left in our glass, so I had it with the tacos. Oh, it was just a heavenly pairing.
I'm just unmuting. So the first time I think I came across Off Dry, you won the award at the Cornucopia event. And can you remind me what that blend was? Because I think it was
Sauvignon Blanc or Rheinsteiner.
Rheinsteiner. I love to say it. I love to say these words. Nobody knows what I'm talking about, and neither do I, but like Rheinsteiner. But it was fantastic because it was off dry unexpectedly, but a beautiful balance with great acidity. Like it was a fantastic wine. And that was in, I think, 2017, Cornucopia.
Both vintages.
I think it was 2016, 2017 vintages, was it? 2000, yeah, it's 2016. It must have been. But
I like to work with those varietals, German varietals like Riesling or Rheinsteiner, which is also a cross of Riesling. Ehrenfelser also a cross of Riesling. I know those names are not really cool names for people that don't really drink wine, but those wines are absolutely stunning. If I would call it, I don't know, Sauvignon Blanc, everybody would buy it because they're so unique.
Do you want to comment a little bit about your choice for bubbles using Sauvignon Blanc? I mean, I know there's probably a reason, and I mean, you talked a little bit about early harvest, but isn't it because Sauvignon Blanc has this beautiful acidity and it really lends itself to sparkling wine, or?
Exactly, and the other reason is also we wanted to make sparkling here in the valley, but everybody's doing it the French way, which is Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Pinot Meunier or so. And we wanted to be unconventional, just like our Bohemian theme, So I was like, well, we want to try something different, I like challenges in my life. Other than that, I'm not. So that's why we picked Sauvignon Blanc. We are growing a lot of Sauvignon Blanc in 3 different vineyards, and also the decision was made in the vineyard. So I saw how the grapes are growing, so when they are ripening, and I was like, okay, I think we picked certain blocks, and we said, look, these blocks would be amazing for sparkling. We tried it, we started this year, and I think the outcome is absolutely amazing.
Oh my God, I just got a call. It's New Zealand. They're jealous. Well, that's one of the things they've been talking about and trying to introduce is Sauvignon Blanc, sparkling Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. And it's kind of like, they're not quite sure where to position it. It's kind of low end. It's like, no. Anyway, the bottles are beautiful. The labels are beautiful. The flavors are beautiful. Really well done on the sparkling. And of course, I'm a huge bubbles fan, so I won't be able to get enough of that, but thank you. Any other questions?
I'm just excited to come up and see the wine village and your winery itself. Then you're not open there, or you are?
No, you can't go there.
No. Well, I can. I can just go there.
You mean the vineyard?
Yes. So there's the tasting room is in the district, and that's where we need to go. Our
vineyard is basically a field. There is nothing but vineyard, dirt, and it's not really welcoming for tourists, just like the real gardens of some wineries in Okanagan, because I want to keep it I want to keep the ecosystem of the vineyard, or the micro ecosystem, untouched. Just the music, birds, bees, and everything green.
Awesome. Well, road trip.
So I just kind of looking at the faces in the room, and I just say, I see a live podcast from the district. We're all painting on an easel. We're all sipping bubbles and talking about bubbles, and it it'll be a little piece of paradise that we could share broadly. So we should figure out a date and all rendezvous, because I don't know how you would say rendezvous in Slovakian, but there you go.
London. And I have to warn you, once you come here and you sit on a patio looking at the McIntyre Bluff here, you will never want to leave.
You'll be done. So we'll be bringing tents or trailers or something, or just sleeping bags, and we'll all be at your backyard after that, or in the vineyard.
Bring it on.
All right, I'm going to
sleep
stop
in the tasting room.
There you go. I'm going to stop the recording, ladies and gents. Thank you very much.